Good evening. Welcome to tonight's call. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Karen Riley, and I am the Regional Vice President of Sales for ASEA. I have been with this organization for 9 years, and I am excited that you would join us tonight to learn a little bit more about this incredible breakthrough in cell signaling that got its start almost 25 years ago. Now, if you're joining us for the very first time, this is going to be an exciting call for you. You're going to be meeting some very special guests tonight. And if you have been with ASEA for a little while, what we're going to do first is start out with just a little bit of a review for some of those who might be joining us for the first time. So let's get right into learning a little bit more about what this exciting breakthrough is all about. So we live and die at the cellular level. This is an example of how when our cells are healthy, we are healthy because we are made up of systems. Those systems are made up of organs. Those organs are made up of tissues. Those tissues are made up of cells. And those cells are all firing off of a communication system called redox signaling. Quite simply, as we age, we produce fewer and fewer redox signaling molecules. When we're young, we don't experience or feel the deficiencies, but as we get older, we start to slow down. We start to see and feel the effects and the impact of the aging process. Quite simply, the redox breakthrough is, after extensive research, almost 25 years worth of research, millions and millions of dollars of research, ASEA was able to stabilize what was once thought impossible by identifying and stabilizing these critical redox signaling molecules outside of the human body. Our stabilization of these molecules is in perfect balance with what is native to the body. The difference between native and natural, for example, a blueberry is a natural fruit, but our bodies don't produce blueberries. What our bodies are doing natively is producing these redox signaling molecules through the production of our energy source. When you look at a bottle of ASEA and you turn it around and you see that it's made out of salt and water, that can be a little deceiving. Let me tell you a little bit about how this breakthrough is created in our warehouse, in our manufacturing process. First, we take pristine salt water, same as found in your cells, and we break down those chemical bonds into free-floating atoms, and then we, through a patented process, put them back together. Very simply, these atoms are restructured into these stabilized redox signaling molecules. This is a 3-step process, takes about 3 days to create, and this is our flagship product here at ASEA. Our manufacturing and commitment to quality is extensive here at ASEA. Some things that are important to know is that ASEA controls manufacturing and quality assurance for the ASEA Redox supplement at the Redox Center in Pleasant Grove, Utah. At this center, we do all of our own on-site formulation. We have quality control, we do bottling, we do warehousing, we do all of the shipping from there. This warehouse is approximately 44,000 square feet. That is roughly the size of 7 NBA basketball courts. This is an FDA registered facility. It is an NSF International and GMP certified facility. This product is kosher and halal certified, and it is patent protected. So throughout the years, redox signaling has gained tremendous attention throughout the scientific community. It's one of the fastest growing fields of scientific research. It has more than 10,000 peer-reviewed articles published on redox signaling. This product is 100% safe and non-toxic. We have also partnered with an organization called Bioagiletics Laboratories, and Bioagiletics has certified that this product does contain redox signaling molecules. Now, a little bit about Bioagiletics. They specialize in large molecule bioanalysis for pharmaceutical and biotech companies. They are a global leader in outsourcing laboratory services. They're located in the North Carolina Research Triangle. And they support some of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. In fact, 8 of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies use bioagilitics to certify their products contain what they say they contain. Not only do we go to great lengths to work with groups and organizations like Bioagilitics, but at ASEA, we have created what we call the ASEA Medical Professionals Board. Our current board is made up of 6 members: Dr. Maureen Hayes, an MD, Dr. David Silverman, Dr. Richard Michael, Dr. Foster Malmed, Jerry White, and Sally Diamond. The members of this board provide advice and guidance and counsel when it comes to our understanding and furthering the technology behind redox signaling. We are so excited that they provide ongoing support. They are constantly looking out into their own world of health and medical expertise and providing our organization with guidance on the cutting edge science behind redox signaling. And in fact, we have seen just over the last little while how redox signaling is gaining more and more attention. There is a large conference happening in Paris, the Redox conference, and the Huffington Post has published 2 articles about redox signaling as one of the top 5 emerging technologies of our day. And this is all a function of the ASEA Medical Professionals Board leading the way for us to work with and partner with some of those organizations. So we're excited to have 2 members of the ASEA Medical Professionals Board with us tonight. Let me introduce them to you. Tonight we are going to be interviewing Dr. Foster Malmed and Dr. Maureen Hayes. It's an honor to tell you a little bit about Dr. Foster Malmed. He received his Bachelor's of Art from the Syracuse University, and he has received his Doctor of Chiropractic degree from Palmer College of Chiropractic in Davenport, Iowa. He has 30 years experience as a doctor of chiropractic and is a certified applied kinesiologist. He has an active and thriving practice in downtown New York City. He serves as the chiropractic medical director for Comfort Fit Labs Orthotics. He is a diplomat of the Chiropractic Board of Examiners. He's a member of the multidisciplinary team of healthcare practitioners in physical medicine, rehab, and his wellness center. He was one of a very select few chosen amongst the nation's leading chiropractors to work in a New York hospital where he practiced for 5.5 years. And it's unprecedented to see chiropractors working in the hospital. He has been a member of the American Chiropractic Association, the International Chiropractic Association, and the New York State Chiropractic Association. We are delighted that he was joining us tonight. Let me also take a moment and introduce to you Dr. Maureen Hayes. She received her medical degree from the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, South Carolina. She has 30 years experience in cutting-edge medicine and wellness prevention. She is a board-certified anesthesiologist and pain management specialist, spending some time working at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas. She is also credentialed in age management medicine and acupuncture through the Age Management Medicine Education Foundation. She served as the chief of the Department of Anesthesiology at Marlborough Hospital in Marlborough, Massachusetts. She has also worked in the Harvard University Health System in both Cambridge and Boston, Massachusetts. She continues to expand her knowledge base through pioneering education programs such as HCF, SOPMed, and ACAM. And she is a highly sought after speaker and lecturer. Thank you so much, Dr. Hayes and Dr. Malmed, for joining us tonight. It's delighted to have you both with us. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. Wonderful. Well, we're so excited. So, you know, as we prepared for this call tonight, there you go. As we prepared for this call tonight, one of the things that we wanted to do was identify for our audience and those that might be listening or learning for the very first time a little bit more about ASEA. We wanted to identify some of the key elements about what our problem is here, not just in the States, but all around the world. And in some of our testing, we identified these 5 specific systems. So one of them was the immune system. So the problem is, As many as 50 million Americans suffer from autoimmune diseases, and these systems affect all of our organs. Hormone modulation. Hormone imbalances affecting the production of key sex hormones account for billions of dollars in healthcare costs. Inflammatory response is a huge problem in this country and all over the world. Chronic inflammation, often triggered by stress, is linked to almost all major causes of disease, death in the United States. Digestive function. This is a hot topic for so many of us. Digestive diseases are the second leading cause of disability due to illness in the United States. And cardiovascular system. 1 in every 3 deaths in the United States has cardiovascular disease listed as the underlying cause. So these 5 systems of our body really account for and are the underlying cause of so many people suffering every single day. And I know that so many of our listeners know someone or are personally affected by one of these issues. Tonight, with your help, we are going to take a deep dive into the research that we have published a couple of years ago through Torrent Labs. And we're going to take a deep dive on the inflammatory response and the immune system. So let me tell you a little bit about how ASEA is the solution to these 2 problems. A while back, we partnered with an organization called the Torrent Labs. Let me tell you a little bit about Torrent Labs. They are a leading genetic research organization, and we contracted with them to help us understand better how ASEA was having an impact on anything that was having a genetic expression. They spearheaded this project, and we had phenomenal results. In fact, breakthrough results. This lab is led by a gentleman named Dr. Kenneth Ward. He is a premier researcher in female reproductive medicine, and he's board certified as an OB/GYN, maternal fetal medicine, as well as medical genetics and molecular genetics. ASEA did an 8-week study. This was an 8-week human study, and basically what you're looking at here is that we had a group of individuals on ASEA as well as a group of individuals taking a placebo. Now what's interesting is this was a randomized 60 participant study, 25 of them in the active group, which was the ASEA Redox group, 25 in the placebo group, which is the saline group, and 10 in the control group, which means we did not know whether they were taking the ASEA product or the placebo. And it's important to note that the placebo that was used in this study was actually the same product that we use prior to restructuring our product into these stabilized molecules. But it did not contain these molecules, so it's basically a saline solution. So of the total 60 participants, 41% were male, 59% were female. The mean age of this group in the study was 35, and 92% were Caucasian. Each participant, except for the control group, drank 4 ounces of ASEA Redox or placebo twice a day. Now, very simply, this shows that when drinking ASEA, every single participant had an impact with this product. And then when not drinking ASEA, all of these genetic expression markers were back to normal. So the results of the 8-week study showed a 20 to 31% difference in gene expression in 5 genes that are involved in pathway signaling. Those were the same 5 pathways that we just talked about that are impacting so many people and their health. So the immune system, the inflammation system, vascular health, digestive enzyme signaling pathways, hormone modulation. So to get a 20 to 31% change in this genetic expression was something that they had actually never seen before in a product like this. So tonight, with the help of Dr. Hayes and Dr. Foster, we are going to talk in depth about the immune system and about the inflammation and how this study impacted those, and a little bit more about why it's so important to not only drink the product properly, but to stay on the product. So the summary of this study is that the 5 genes expressed a change in what they call the transcript abundance. The ASEA Redox group saw the gene activation results in these regulatory pathways in dozens of important biological functions. The daily consumption of ASEA Redox was over an 8-week period, and what they were not expecting was that after taking the product, these genes went back to their original state. The importance of that statement is once you start drinking this product, we don't necessarily feel our genetic expression being changed, but this study proved without a shadow of a doubt that whether you feel anything happening in your body, we know that these genetic pathways are being impacted. So let's take a moment and talk to Dr. Hayes and Dr. Malmed about a little bit more about this study. And I'm actually going to stop this screen share so that we can see them a little bit better. So again, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We're so grateful that you would join us in helping educate not only our current ASEA field about this study, but those who might be listening for the first time. So Foster, let's start with you. So we know that by the year 2020, statistics are telling us that 60 million Americans are expected to be suffering from inflammation of their joints, just their joints alone. And we see it everywhere in our aging population. So tell us a little bit more about really what does it mean to have inflammation? Can you explain a little bit more about what inflammation is in our bodies?
Sure, Karen. So inflammation is actually necessary. It's really important that we must have that as a normal function as humans who need to heal. So the primary function of inflammation is actually to eliminate the initial cause of a cellular injury, which is very, very interesting. So if you get a cut on your finger, you're going to notice that before that thing gets healed, you're going to notice that it gets red and it gets swollen and it hurts and it's warm. And that's actually inflammation at its best. It's supposed to be there. It's supposed to do that job. So inflammation is imperative for us to be normal, healthy humans. We must have that inflammatory response to start the healing process. And as long as that process stays awesome, we stay awesome.
So it sounds like what you're sharing is that there's a balance that we all need to be aware of. A balance in the good and the evil, if you will, right? Everything that we do to our bodies is either an insult or a compliment. It's important for everyone to recognize that everything that's taking place in our bodies has to be in perfect balance. So there has to be a proper amount of inflammation. And then there's this host of occurrences, right, that is creating that normal inflammation balance. So what is really happening to us then over time if inflammation levels are left out of balance? When inflammation levels maybe get higher or than normal. Talk a little bit about when your body is out of balance and too inflamed.
Okay, so out of balance and too inflamed is sort of the scourge of the human condition. So this is a case where less is more, and more can be devastating. So if the proper inflammation levels of our natural healing process continues past the normal phase and it persists unabated, then we see significant problems resulting. Factors such as free radicals, the things that float around us that rip electrons off and change things, those cellular stressors in and around us, those are the things that cause this thing called oxidative stress. When these free radicals, these toxins, the bad food choices, they rip off electrons and they oxidize us, causing oxidative stress, which was another study that ASEA showed that we do amazing things for oxidative stress. Many people on the call don't know they take antioxidants to stop oxidation. They're anti-oxidation because oxidative stress that goes unchecked, which is actually human rusting, becomes inflammation, which is what we're talking about. And that inflammation, what happens over time is it starts causing bigger problems. So you don't want to have this inflammation starting to escalate and go unchecked, because that's when you get problems that you go from this oxidative state that's high, which causes inflammation, which now gets high, which now will cause degeneration, which will now cause something that you're going to need help from a healthcare professional, because the damage from the inflammation can now be so severe that it may actually be bleak if we don't have something to do for it to decrease it. But luckily, we now have a choice.
Is inflammation, or the overproduction of inflammation, not being able to regulate inflammation, is that only for people who are getting older? Does this happen in every age group? Where do we see this happening the most?
Well, certainly as we age, as a 36-year practitioner, I see the aging population. I see patients that I knew 36 years ago, and I watch what happens. So it doesn't matter if you're 10 or 20 or 30, as you age and you lose the proper balance and supply of these redox signaling molecules, you're going to see that inflammation level creeping up, and that inflammation can cause anything in anyone. So it doesn't matter if you're a child, if you're an athlete. Athletes are replete with inflammation. As you age, you're replete with inflammation, and just as that natural decrease in balance and supply of redox signalers takes place, you're going to see more and more inflammation that will become things that we need help, whether it's surgery, medication, supplements, whatever it is, until finally, most of the things that we actually perish from are things that started with inflammation.
I think that's an important point, and maybe you could elaborate on that for just a moment. I think that a lot of us, by the time we actually feel the aches and pains, it's already out of balance. Is that a true statement?
You would not make a statement that wasn't true, so of course that's true, Karen Wright.
So with the Tarot Laboratories study and the impact that this product had on the inflammation, they mentioned something called enhanced immunotolerance. Talk a little bit about how ASEA has an impact on the reduction of inflammation and the enhanced immunotolerance.
So that's a great question. So now we're getting into what is ASEA and what does it actually do? So the reason that it's causing these changes in these genetic expression pathways is because we're improving the cellular communication that makes your DNA, make the RNA, make things happen in a proper fashion. So whether it's inflammation or immunotolerance or the immune system or any of those many, many systems that we saw significant improvements in, it's because now we're improving the cellular messaging, and that messaging is what makes proper repairs take place, proper DNA, RNA messaging take place, and that's how it is that we can remain healthy for the longest possible time as we replenish this signaling mechanism that allows our cells to do their job, which is repair themselves and replace themselves if they cannot be repaired.
Does an imbalance in inflammation only show up in our joints?
Absolutely not, Karen. So when you look at all the studies that are coming out, and you look at all these named medical conditions, and we try not to name medical conditions here, but all the things that take us off the planet, all the things that we're afraid of contracting at some point because somebody in our family had it or a friend had it, and we're afraid to get those diagnoses. Look online, you will see they start with inflammation. And that inflammation that goes unchecked, if you don't drink your ASEA and decrease that inflammation, you have a greater chance of having a more difficult future, because those bad things that we don't want, they start with inflammation.
Is an imbalance in inflammation hereditary?
It can be. I get it from my children. No, that's only my brain. That's a different kind of inflammation. The answer is it can be genetic from our parents. It can be epigenetic. I'm in New York City now. If I stood behind a bus and just breathed in those fumes, I would get toxins. I would be breathing them in. They would be inflaming me, and I would have to detoxify myself somehow so my inflammation levels can go back down. So it's anything from the inside from our history, and it's anything from the outside that causes an insult, whether it's exercise, lack of sleep, lack of hydration, poor food choices, poor drinking choices, smoking. There are so many things that cause inflammation to rise, and I am just so thankful that we have that which decreases that.
I think it's important also with what you just said to maybe share, inflammation is also a byproduct of taking care of yourself, of exercising. And this product is not just a product that addresses those that might not be feeling well because of those stresses or those external issues or pressures or the hereditary, but also we have a whole host of incredible ASEA athletes who are in peak physical condition, who take this product regularly. How is ASEA impacting them as well? Because like you just mentioned, inflammation can be a product of exercise.
Absolutely. So, and that's an awesome part of it. So when you work out in the gym, your job is exercise, tear down muscle tissue, and then we need that healing response so that it comes back stronger and healthier. And as I discussed earlier, that healing response is going to bring on inflammation. That's part of that healing process. So proper inflammation from exercise is awesome. It's when you do too much. Luckily, when we drink this product, not only are we decreasing inflammation, we are speeding up that cellular repair process, the cellular recovery process. So that's why this is a perfect product for inflamed athletes. And to be an athlete at any high level, you are going to be inflaming things. You welcome the inflammation. That's why so many go and take ice baths. They do cryotherapy, or if you just drink our product, you may not need to do those because your inflammation levels are going to be so much better.
More in balance as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Malmed, for sharing a little bit more about why inflammation is so important, both to manage, but how inflammation is impacting people at every fitness level, at every age. I'd love to turn some time over to Dr. Maureen Hayes for a few moments as we dig a little deeper into what is a huge topic of discussion right now, particularly when it comes to our health, and it's the immune system. And Dr. Hayes, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
I think you have to unmute me.
There, we got you.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And that was such a great talk, Foster, and a great explanation of inflammation. And of course, inflammation is a part of the immune response in the body. And so there's a lot of overlap. In fact, there's overlap in the 5 different areas that are affected by, that was shown in the TART lab study. But the immune system is very key. We're all a little bit familiar with the immune system and how it works, and it's there to protect our bodies, to fight any kind of invading organism or malignant or cells that are trying to take hold. But what's interesting is people maybe don't know all the different parts of the immune system. We're pretty familiar with lymph nodes, but it also encompasses our skin, our mucous membranes. That's part of our innate immune system that keeps pathogens out. We also have our tonsils and adenoids, our spleen, our appendix, and then of course our gut. So we're going to talk a little bit about gut on another day, but a huge amount of our immune system is actually located in our gut. About 70% of the immune cells are part of that gut and rely on the microbiome. You talked a lot about balance, and a lot of the diseases we see are because of an imbalance in our immune system, an imbalance in that inflammatory response. And what this study showed is that it's all about communication. The immune system, besides those organs and the different tissues, are also made up of a number of different cells and proteins. The proteins are called cytokines, and these are very similar to hormones that are probably more familiar to people, or neurotransmitters. But the cytokines are how the cells talk to each other and how they kind of send signals for if repair needs to be done or if something is invading. And these cytokines are very, very important. And a lot of times, by the very things that Foster was talking about lifestyle choices, the different toxins that we're exposed to, bad diet, dehydration, smoking, alcohol, you name it, even radiation if you fly a lot, those cytokines can be decreased. What this study showed is some of these gene pathways actually had an upregulation of those cytokines. And those cytokines are even important to things that you wouldn't even think about, like our sleep. You've probably heard that sleep deprivation will cause a decrease in your immune function, and it's really true. So it's sort of a catch-22. You have to get proper sleep, and there's about 70 million people in our country who have sleep disorders, if you can imagine. So our immune systems are really being hit right now. It's maybe not sexy to talk about the immune system. People take it for granted unless they get a sore throat, they have lymph nodes coming up, or maybe they get a bad diagnosis, then they start thinking about their immune system. We really do take it for granted, and it really does work beautifully. It's miraculous, but it's so important. And knowing that these products actually help to let us have a balanced immune system, one that is not overly active, because then we see problems, or underactive, which is when we see people getting all sorts of diseases. So it's the balance of that. And by taking bioreplenishment agent for redox molecules, we're able to kind of modulate that. And by taking care of that microbiome, we're actually also allowing that, because that's where modulation of our immune system comes from, is from the gut, believe it or not. So,
absolutely. I'm hearing more and more conversation about the gut, and how ironic it is that for years and years we've all said, you're trusting your gut, and that's really where a lot of that comes from, because all of our systems, there's so much activity that's happening in our gut and sending those signals up to our brain, which is regulating the rest of us.
right.
And I think one thing that is important to distinguish is when people are suffering, and so many people are suffering from autoimmune issues. So take a moment, if you would please, and help our audience understand what is an autoimmune issue.
Absolutely. And you were talking a little while ago about immunotolerance, and that is one of the things that is regulated in our immune system. And that means that we actually tolerate our own cells. So when there's an imbalance in that immune system, sometimes there's miscommunication, because just like those cytokines, the redox signaling molecules are, if they're in balance, there's good communication between the cells. If the cytokines are in balance, there's good communication between the immune cells. So what happens is, if there's a disruption, if there's an imbalance, then the communication is misread, and the body starts to attack itself. And there's a lot of correlation, again, with the gut and with the strains of bacteria that are in our gut, causing these signals to be misread. So again, taking care of your gut, eating a clean diet, exercising. Exercise is very important for the immune system also, not just because of inflammation, but because it increases circulation and brings these different immune cells to where they need to be to do the job that they have. So all of these things take place. So if you have that miscommunication, you're going to start attacking self. People are pretty familiar with strep throat and something called rheumatic fever. And, most people know you should take antibiotics for strep throat because the body, after it attacks that bacteria, it gets confused and starts attacking self, the valves in the heart and the kidneys, and because it's misreading it. So that's a form of autoimmune. The body is attacking itself. And so if you can balance that immune system, if you can get that communication back on track, if you can decrease that inflammation, then perhaps you'll start to see those things normalize again. And that's actually, to a degree, what we see with people who are taking these products. So, yeah.
How do autoimmune disorders differ from maybe an allergy or a hypersensitivity?
Well, they're all sort of abnormal responses of the immune system. I'm going to take this off. I hope you can hear me okay. It's hard to hear with those things on.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, even though they're ASEA, I don't know if you noticed, they're ASEA headphones. But a hypersensitivity and an allergy are also abnormal responses of the immune system, but they're responses to a harmless pathogen, not a pathogen, but a harmless substance like pollen. So what happens with the immune system is that there is the innate system and there's also an adaptive system. And so when you come across a different pathogen or a different allergen, the immune cells can actually have a memory and they mount a response. So this is something that's happening because it's overreactive, it's oversensitized. And so you get different sensitivities like chemical sensitivities to perfumes and things like that, or allergies, or anaphylaxis to things like bee stings and whatnot. That's a little bit different from autoimmune, which is the body attacking self, not recognizing self as self, thinking it's a pathogen. So, and those things too, there's a lot of people who, when they get on this, because of the decrease in the inflammation, because of the modulation of the immune system, they start noticing less response to allergens. A lot of people who have suffered greatly tell me that once they've gotten on these products, they no longer deal as much. They don't have the sinus conditions, the rhinitis from, say, seasonal pollen and seasonal allergies. So it's really pretty amazing. And I just want to point out that these are things that maybe people are not aware of. People who are looking for experiences from these products, these are subtle, but they're extremely important. And I would say that your immune system and preventing some of these things from happening is probably absolutely just as important as having your knee pain go away. And I know as a chiropractor, Foster, inflammation in the joints is important, and I know it's important to all of us. But there are other things that you may not know are happening in your body that are very key for your longevity and your health. And this study shows that those are happening behind the scenes, whether you're aware of it or not. And very common.
And it also showed that by the time they manifest, they can be very, very serious, and they can have real long-term impact. And so talk a little bit about how replenishing our redox signaling molecules help benefit the immune system, and why it's so important to continue regular consumption with ASEA. Oh, whoops, let me see here. I think let me just unmute.
There we go. Sorry about that, I muted because of the squeaking. Yes, as the study shows, because of an increase in these pathways, and there's a number of them. Foster was talking about the inflammation, and one of the pathways that people are pretty familiar with is the NRF2, with the antioxidant pathways. So, these things allow our immune system to be modulated, to be less hyperreactive, to stop being more immunotolerant, like you were saying, and not attacking self, and also to decrease, modulating that overreaction. And so we have a more balanced immune system, but a stronger immune system. And when we couple that with other good lifestyle choices, and we'll be talking about that sometime in the future, some of the products that we have that help with the diet and nutrition and cellular function from that standpoint, we're going to see people who are going to enjoy even better health, less colds and viruses, and just be able to stave off those sort of intruders much better. So by taking this product, we know just by the study, we always knew that it was doing this. Now we actually have proof positive in what's happening, because we can see this upregulation with the transcription of the genes. So it's very, very important. And as you saw from that study, when they stopped taking the product, in 8 weeks, it was gone. The benefits were gone. Now, there's going to be changes that happen that are going to probably be slower. But for these upregulation and gene expression, that was gone in 8 weeks. So it's not a lasting effect. It's kind of like exercise. You get the benefits over time. You know, you can change your stamina. You can change the way your body looks and how it functions. If you stop, then you're going to go back to baseline. The same is true with these molecules. You're going to get the benefit as long as you take it.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly recommend staying on it and being consistent.
Absolutely. I mentioned at the beginning of the call that I've been with this organization for 9 years now. And I'm often asked what are some of the things that I personally had or noticed as an impact. And, you know, I always think about just what Foster had touched on, just with my family genetics. For me, I've never been diagnosed with a significant health challenge, but my mother has always suffered with tremendous health challenges. My father has really been very, very healthy. They're both very, very active individuals in their late 70s and early 80s. But the interesting thing for me is that after 9 years of drinking this product consistently, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I have no idea which of the genes I have inherited from my parents and which path my aging process will take, whether I'll take my father's path with his, you know, very active, healthy genetic expressions, or whether I have predominantly inherited more of my mother's genetic expression, which has left her with some tremendous health challenges and struggles. So I always like to tell people that may I never know what I am preventing by taking this product. I think it's also, as we kind of close out the call tonight, I want to take a moment and have you share, Dr. Foster and Dr. Hayes, a little bit about what you have seen, not only as a health professional, a medical professional, but why are we seeing such a wide range of impact on different types of challenges? I think that we have been conditioned in our society to hear the word breakthrough and ignore it, because it is overused and overhyped and misused. You can look at a soda or shampoo or toothpaste and see the word breakthrough on the marketing package, and talk a little bit about why this product, why I call it Big Blue, why Big Blue is so unique to each individual. So for me, again, not really dealing with any specific health challenge, but never wanting to know what I might be preventing, I will never stop drinking this product. So because you are both so active still in the healthcare space, would you each take a minute and share a little bit about why this product has such an impact across so many different types of individuals? Let's see. Okay, Dr. Foster, Dr. Malmed, why don't you share first?
So, given the vast science that we have that proves what it is that ASEA does, we could go and talk about the oxidative stress study. We could talk about the athletic study. We could talk about the genetic study. The bottom line is that as humans, as we age and we lose the ability for our body to produce and keep in balance this redox signaling molecule supply, we lose the ability for our cells to be protected, to repair themselves, and to replace themselves with new, young, healthy cells. So before this, my genetic pathway was horrible. I have a dad who perished very young. I have a sick sister, I have a sick brother, and I am on the Foster pathway because for 9 years, I've been drinking this product, and instead of degenerating like the rest of my family who doesn't want to take this product, or the others on the planet who aren't on it yet, I'm now regenerating with new, young, healthy cells and repairing cells that couldn't be repaired before. So I'm not on that same pathway. And when I see objective studies on myself that show when I was 50, I had this. And when I was 55, after being on this product for 2 years, I was better. How does that happen 5 years later? Because I have improved cellular communication network. I have better protection, better repair and replacement mechanisms. And that's why this works on everybody. It has the potential to improve everyone just by its nature.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Dr. Hayes.
Yes, I am so blessed by this product. I'm pretty healthy. I'm a little fluffy, and I know a lot of people actually talk about losing weight on this product, and I've been on it for 6 years. I'm still waiting. Lord only knows what it's working on. But it's interesting. I was just at a medical conference, and there was a station where people were going by where they were having their carotids measured. And so they were looking at the flow through the carotids, the intimal wall thickness, and there was one other measurement. And basically people were coming over to my booth where I was talking about redox signaling and saying, I think I need this product. I have the carotids of an 80-year-old, a 90-year-old. And so I thought, gosh, I'm going to go get my carotids measured. And it was $50. And I was like, am I really going to pay $50 for bad news? And what was amazing is I went over there and they did it. It's like a little ultrasound of your carotids. And the woman said, you have amazing carotids. You have extremely young. One side was about a year younger and the other side was 14. Sometimes there's discrepancy between the two. But one was 14 years younger than my stated age. And I was like, wow, this is from redox signaling. I'm in my late 50s, and all you have to do is look at, I hope it's a difference, but if you look at the picture that's being used for the medical board and you look at me now, I think I look younger now than I did 6 years ago when I first joined ASEA. So it's, just for my own personal health, I think I'm getting healthier and healthier. And then we've had a couple of family members who have had bad diagnoses, who thought they were healthy. In fact, one was my brother, who was a vegan, a bodybuilder, didn't think he needed ASEA because he thought he was too healthy until he got that bad diagnosis. And then he started drinking it like it was his job. And I'm happy to say that he is totally disease-free, back to living his own life. And we now incorporate this. Every member of our family is on this because it's not just what you have now, it's what you're preventing in the future. And if you love people, you're going to share it.
Absolutely. Let's talk right as we close out here a little bit about how much should people be drinking of ASEA. On the Big Blue, right here on the back, we talk about the serving size as 4 ounces a day. 2 ounces in the morning, 2 ounces at night is what we would consider just a daily maintenance type of a consumption. Dr. Hayes, would you talk for just a moment about when someone might need to increase that consumption, and when someone might just want to take 4 ounces in the morning or 4 ounces at night? Is there a downside to taking it all at once or breaking it up during the day? Give us a little background on the best usage of our product.
Absolutely. I'm happy to. It is 2 ounces twice a day, but when we first got started at our house and we were following that, it was about 6 weeks before we noticed anything. We were very, I don't want to say unimpressed, but we were like, I think this really is salt water from Salt Lake City. So, what we have learned is that, if you're over 40, 45, you're probably running at a deficit. So maybe take a little bit more if you can afford to. If, it is an investment in yourself, and it is a little bit expensive, especially if you have the whole family on it. So if the best you can do is 2 ounces twice a day, by all means do that. But if you are getting started on it and you've got some challenges, or you're a little bit older, go ahead and maybe for your first month or so, double up and just fill those coffers up, because you're, like we said, you're running at a deficit. Also, if you have a challenge, if you're going to run a marathon and you need that recovery, like Foster with Dr. Malmed was talking about with recovering from exercise, take some more. If you're traveling, if you're sleep deprived and you're going to be coming across all sorts of people who are got all sorts of germs, yeah, I always take extra, because that's the time that I become susceptible to viruses, is if I'm sleep deprived and I'm traveling. So I always take extra product. I also have people, if you can't remember to take it twice a day, and for some reason in my household, the guys are really bad about that. I tell people to take it all in the morning. And then if you think about it, take more in the afternoon. It's not particularly necessary to take it on an empty stomach. You just don't want to be eating and drinking it at the same time, because it's going to work on that organic matter. So, take it twice a day or multiple times a day if you can. The sports pouches are great for that. 4 ounces for sure a day. That's a great maintenance dose. Thank you, Dr. Malmed. If you can take more, if you think you need more, take more. It's totally non-toxic. And for people with very serious challenges, I usually recommend that they go way up and kind of work within their budget and what their needs are. So I hope that helps.
Oh, it absolutely helps clarify. We also want to make sure that people know that this product should be consumed in you don't mix it with anything. So let me ask Dr. Malmed to share a little bit about just actually to get the best result. Dr. Hayes has kind of shared a little bit about the quantity, but Dr. Malmed, talk to our audience a little bit about the do's and don'ts with ASEA. Plastic, metals, mixing it with things, drinking out of the bottle, those kinds of things. So share with our audience for the best result, the do's and don'ts on drinking this product. There you go. Now you're unmuted.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And it's a beautiful rendition of what to do with this product. Thank you so much, Dr. Hayes. So it's very important. I love to be a purist. My wife would tell you sometimes I'm hyper perfectionistic, but you don't want to put this in metal. As Karen said, you don't want to put it, you don't want to mix it with anything. You don't want anything, as Dr. Hayes said, you don't want organic matter. You don't want anything in your mouth a couple of minutes before to a couple of minutes after. You don't have to have an empty stomach. We love when people don't drink it out of your shoe. Try to keep it something that's clean so that there's no junk in there that might combine with the molecules, and then the molecules are working on the dirt in your shoe rather than some sort of clean glass or disposable cup from your cupboard.
Although you will have a very clean shoe later.
And I've tried it, and it's true, and my shoe has never gotten sick. I want to make that very clear.
Now, wait a minute. We don't treat or cure any shoe diseases here.
For shoe.
For shoe. One of the questions asked often with ASEA is if you can't drink it in a metal cup, what is happening if you have fillings in your mouth? And is it better to hold the product in your mouth for a little while before ingesting it? Talk a little bit about really the denaturing that people are so afraid of with a bioactive product like this, and maybe share a little bit of reassurance about the stability of the product.
Okay, so I get this question a lot. And the last person who said, make sure to take it with a straw if you have metal in your mouth. And I wrote and I said, the inside of my mouth looks like the Brooklyn Bridge. And I swish the product so that my gums get the benefit, and I swish it around and then I swallow it. And I said, if the metal in my mouth was bad for the stability of the product, I would not have had my massive benefits and shifts that I've been getting for the past 9 years. So do not worry about the metal in your mouth. If it goes into a metal bowl, if it goes into a metal cup, we found that that tends to change the way those molecules work. They don't work perfectly. And so we just don't do that. So glass or plastic or paper, anything that's clean in any of those materials is perfectly fine. But fillings are perfectly fine. Don't even think about it. If it's really concerning you, drink it fast. It'll go right into your water channels and it'll get wherever it needs.
Now I have Big Blue here, but I noticed that you have a sports pouch. So we do recommend, right, that you don't drink directly from the bottle. Talk a minute about why it's so important not to drink directly from the bottle, but why it is okay to drink from the pouch.
Awesome question. So drinking from the bottle, so if you think about, these are very reactive molecules. They are looking for organic something to react on, to help to improve. Once you put your mouth in that bottle, if your mouth touches the ASEA that's in the bottle and you get some backwash, I know no one on this webinar has ever caused any backwash, especially Karen and Dr. Hayes. But should anybody do that, that backwash takes saliva, enzymes, DNA back into the bottle, and that can decrease the efficacy of the product. As opposed to these, which have one-way valves, so that I can put my mouth on it, drink it, and I can't ruin what's in there no matter how hard I try. So these I love, but as a purist, I never drink from the bottle unless it's the very last dose and I'm gonna empty that bottle right now.
Wonderful. You know, so many of our listeners on the call tonight are not board certified anesthesiologists, are not licensed chiropractors who were selected to work in New York City hospitals, an unprecedented offer for so many chiropractors. Tell us a little bit about the tools available for our audience if they want to share more about the study, the TART Lab study, maybe about where they can find some of the information on the safety and efficacy of these studies as well. So if you're not available for a phone call for someone, what do you recommend they do to share more about the science without having to be a medical expert?
Well, if I'm not available, I always suggest that they call Dr. Hayes. And if Dr. Hayes is not available, and she probably isn't because she's busy, just go into your office. If you're a guest here, ask the person who brought you here. In our library, in our virtual office, we have all the science you can imagine. We have our scientific summary. We have our TART Labs review and summary. We have our safety studies. We have videos, we have documents, we have everything that you could possibly want to share enough science for the people who say, I must have science. If that's not enough science, then you probably can't find enough science. But for the vast majority of the human population, everything that you need science-wise, safety-wise, study-wise is in the library under resources in your virtual office.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Malmed. Dr. Hayes, I'd love to ask you a closing question here. You spend a lot of time on continued education. I know that you go to conferences all over the country. Will you share a little bit about what you've seen happen in the scientific world, in the medical community over the last 5 to 10 years? With specific reference to redox biochemistry?
You know, it's pretty amazing. When this was first brought to my attention 6 years ago, I had never even heard the verbiage before. Once I knew what it was and that it went back to the mitochondria and the Krebs cycle, of course, it was familiar, but nobody was talking about it. I was just at a medical conference this past weekend where 2 different people talking about life-threatening illnesses referred to redox biochemistry. And so I actually talked to the physician who puts it on, and I said, you need somebody who is educating people about this. And I said, I'm happy. I'll actually be speaking at his next conference in November, teaching people and other doctors and practitioners about redox signaling molecules and biochemistry. So it is gaining traction. In fact, they're now teaching medical students and nursing students about redox biology and biochemistry, which is something that I didn't have. So it's really, it's amazing how cutting edge this is. It's blossoming. More and more people are speaking about it. And yet we're still the only company that has the product outside of the body, which is just absolutely amazing. And even though we're probably going to get some copycats here in the near future, it's going to take them a long time to catch up to where we are and to have the information and the experience that we do. So it's a really great place to be in time.
Absolutely. As an organization founded on this flagship product, the cell signaling supplement and the rebranding of this product that we went through a few years ago, and actually just very simply by putting the study results right here on the back of the bottle, make it such a simple story to tell and to share. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. A special thank you to Dr. Maureen Hayes, to Dr. Foster Malmed. This is just the first of a series of calls that we will be putting together on the, not only on the SIA Redox product, but on the entire product family offering at ASEA, which includes what we have referred to as the foundation in the ASEA Redox supplement for signaling our cells to turn on and turn off when they are needed and not needed, as well as the ability that we have to give ourselves proper nutrition. As Maureen and Foster both alluded to, ASEA has a line of nutritional supplements as well that without proper nutrition, we have all just heard, we are only doing so much for our health, not just in prevention, but in any category that we have not yet felt or seen manifesting. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And again, as Foster mentioned, all of the material that we talked about on tonight's call is available to you in your virtual office library. And if you were joining us for the very first time, we want to invite you to get back together with the person who shared this call with you to answer any additional questions. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. For our special guests taking time out of their evening to join us tonight, we hope that regardless of your physical status, regardless of whether you're one of those really, really fit or really, really challenged right now, that you have recognized the power of this cell signaling supplement, this true breakthrough that has been ahead of its time, but is now seeing and feeling the community, the scientific community, the medical community, but just the community in general that we live and surround ourselves in, are talking about cellular signaling supplements and why they're so important. So we will see you next time on our product trainings here at ASEA. We hope that you have a great evening. Thanks for joining us.